Okay. All right, perfect. Thank you all. Welcome to our S&A meeting. We're going to go ahead and get started. It's our October 19th, 2023 S&A meeting. And as a reminder, this is our second training meeting. And so this will kind of be wrapping up our training, and then we'll be moving into regular business for our other meetings, but we'll discuss that when we get down towards the end of the agenda. So with this, I'll call the meeting to order at 5:03 p.m. We'll do roll call and attendance. And I'm going to do this one a little bit differently, mostly because we do have one new member who's here who wasn't able to. And so on the roll call and attendance, I'll actually have you all go around and introduce yourselves. If you don't mind saying your name, your year in school, and your major and pronouns. And so I'll kind of popcorn and go through. But so we're going to go in the Hollywood Square order of what I have on here. So Xander, why don't you go ahead?
Sorry, can we come back to me for, please?
Yep, as I noticed you took a bite, so we will come back. Alice, go ahead.
Hey there. Hey, my name's Alice Williams. I use she, her pronouns. I'm a senior doing a terrible double major in computer science and applied mathematics. And we will pass it over to Nicholas.
Hello, Nicholas. I go by Nick, fourth year in ITM program, specializing in cybersecurity, he, him pronouns. And I'll go ahead and pass it to Mia.
Oh, did you say my name? I'm sorry, I heard me and I was like, oh, that's funny. He just went. Hi, my name is Mia. I am the Secretary Supervisor for the Office of Student Engagement and Success. I'm also the Secretary for the S&A Committee. It is my 5th year at Central. I graduated in last spring. I studied economics and public policy, and I love Central so much, and I felt very in tune that my values aligned with the new mission statement. So I was like, I'm gonna stay here a little bit longer. I love it so much. I'm sorry, I came in a little late. Who hasn't gone?
Xander hasn't. Spencer hasn't.
Pass it to Xander.
I apologize for my chewing earlier. My name is Xander Johnson. My pronouns are he, him. I'm a third year student here studying history and social studies education. And that's that. And I'll pass it to Jake. Sorry. Yep, Jake.
Hey guys, I'm Jake. I go by he, him pronouns. This is going to be my 4th year and final year at Central. Studying for a bachelor's in computer science with a minor in ITEM with a specialization in cybersecurity. And I'm going to pass it off to Spencer.
Hey guys, my name is Spencer Winters. This is my 2nd year at Central, but it's technically my senior year because I transferred from a community college. I go by he, him pronouns, and I am majoring in environmental science with a specialization in policy. And did Jared go? No, Jared?
Not. All right, so I'm Jared. I'm first year of the master's program, 4th year overall at CWU. I'm the graduate TA for computer science, and my pronouns are old and older, as I'm a non-traditional student. So, but he, him actually, but yeah. But yeah, I'm looking forward to meeting with you and working with you all this year.
Can we popcorn it to Joey? Joey to introduce himself. Or Aaron.
That's true. I will send it over to Joey then.
Sorry, I got booted out there for a second.
I'm actually disappointed because I was looking forward to sending it over to Jake's torso.
Jared, did you finish introducing yourself? It cut me out in the middle of your introduction.
I mean, I thought I did, but I'm also on mobile, so I don't know if you guys caught any of that.
Okay. Aaron, do you want to introduce yourself? I know me and you were the last two to go.
Sure. I'm Erin Sargent. I use she, her pronouns, and I'm the Student Funds Financial Manager. I have worked in a variety of positions at Central and am a graduate of Central, so I love it. I just love it. And then go ahead, Joey. He may have got booted out again.
Oh no.
Okay, I think I am here. I'm having my camera off for the sake of my connection is being weird, so I apologize all. Can you hear me okay? Your all's videos are now stable, which is helpful, so I apologize. So I know you all know me, but I know for the sake of this, Joey Bryant, he, him pronouns, advisor to the committee. This is my 21st year at Central. Not as a student, only 5 of those were as a student. So excited to have you all here. This is our committee. So we have the full group here. Everyone is present at this point. I know we may get some other members if other people are interested and reach out to Nick and ACWU. But excited to have you all here for this year. So thank you for the kind of extended roll call and attendance, so we all got a chance to interact. With that, though, I'm going to go ahead and move on to the next agenda item, which is approval of the agenda. Did anyone have any updates or edits to the agenda? If not, I'd entertain a motion to approve the agenda.
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda.
Motion from Xander.
I'll second that.
Second from Alice. Any discussion? Perfect. Any disagreement on it?
I don't know about that agenda.
Seeing none, we'll consider the agenda approved. Now we'll move on to approval of the minutes from our last week's training minutes.
So motioned.
Perfect. Motion from Alice.
Second.
Second from Xander. Thank you. Any discussion?
No, it looks great.
Great. Seeing none, is there any disagreement on moving forward? Are we all in favor? These ones are pretty easy, so I'm not having us do a roll call vote on it. Yep. Seeing no disagreement, minutes are passed. We'll go and move on to reports from advisors. On my side, the only kind of update I have, and then we'll talk a little bit at the end. I do have an update, as I mentioned to you all, we did have one other supplemental funding request that had come in from student media last month, but it was for the trip and conference that was scheduled to be at the end of October. I did get confirmation from them this week that they're going to go ahead and pull back and rescind that funding request just due to timing. It's already past the priority timing of a lot of things. And so they are rescinding that. They did share they will likely be coming forward about a trip. I believe it's in either spring quarter or winter quarter, but so might be coming back with something else. And did request for future kind of reference that if they do have trips and these types of things that happen in October or early fall quarter, and confirm the ability for them to come during the spring quarter beforehand to request those. And so just want to give that update since I'd shared it before. Otherwise, we'll talk at the end of the meeting here after we do our fiscal training about just the election of those 3 officer positions, and also just talk about a little bit of follow-up and consensus on our regular meeting times, dates, and length as we look into things. But otherwise, that is what I have. Any reports from you, Aaron?
Nope, I'm going to be giving all kinds of information, but I have no report.
Cool. Report from ACWU?
Yes. So for tomorrow, we do have Wellington's wildfire. If you guys are interested, It will be 7 to 9 at the pavilion. We'll have marshmallows, s'mores, pit fire. So if you guys are interested, it's going to be at the pavilion, 7 to 9. We're also in need of volunteers. So if you guys are interested in that, you can reach out to me. And another update, we will be having the fee fair. And one of the fees we'll be having there is S&A. So if you guys are interested in representing S&A there, you can also reach out to me for that as well. And I think that's all the updates I have so far.
Great. Thanks, Nick. With that, move to first call for public comment. Any public comment? Cool. Seeing none, we will move into our new business, our committee fiscal training. And so I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Aaron to go ahead and jump in with your training. So take it away, Aaron.
Thank you. I'm going to share my screen. So hopefully, especially with all the computer science majors in the room, hopefully I can do this without embarrassing myself. Are you seeing the services? Oh, woohoo!
Yep.
Well, we're off to a good start then. So thank you for letting me have this opportunity to talk about the financial side of S&A fee. Probably the most important question, and of course you all are familiar with this, is what specifically the S&A fee is. It's actually a pretty, like, you know, we all pay our fees when we come to school, but this one is really regulated by a lot of RCW and internal policy to make sure that the uses of the fee is really aligned with what the intent was. We safeguard the money, and you all have a huge role in that by receiving the requests from areas that come in. This is information about like from the RCW that talks about what is for. One of the important things I think to note is that it is for current students. We don't use this fee to recruit or try to get new students to come in. That's money that should be spent from a different area. This is really for our current students. A portion of it does go to pay for the bond for the building. And I have a link here. I did check all my links, and I think that they're updated with the new website. And I can go ahead and send this out to you all when we're done, so you kind of have it as a reference. And of course, this is Wellington, so cute. Last year, you all voted to increase the S&A fee to $272 per quarter. As you who were here, and for the new people may recall that because of the quadrennial budgeting that we do, we sort of can't predict things like lower enrollment because of a pandemic or other things. And so we set the quadrennial budgets, and then based on a variety of factors, mainly student enrollment, we sort of have to do some analysis on if the fee money that we're bringing in is going to be enough to support the allocation that we've already committed to through the quadrennial cycle. It had been discussed that the fee had not been increased for a number of years. And so this was what we ended up settling on, or you all, we, at $272 per quarter, annually $816 per full-time student. I have a link over here to the current tuition schedule, this is just from the website. But the S&A fee is this column here, and you can see that it maxes out at 10 credits. Oops. Uh-oh. I lost my train. There it is. Kind of how it stacks up to other universities. It's kind of an interesting comparison because this is just one piece of all of the fees where we may have lower tuition and higher fees, or but the S&A fee specifically, this is how it compares to Western, WSU, and UW. As many of you know, the S&A fee that is allocated out goes to certain areas that have been part of the base funding cycle. This is a snapshot of all of those areas, which is pretty neat that these wouldn't exist without the funding. So you've got the radio station, all of ASCWU, many of the University Center activity, my office, the community garden. And so luckily, this money is available to keep those things going. They're all really student focused, making sure that the fee money is going to what it is intended to go to. There's a link here that will bring you to the S&A website, and you can go into further information about all of these areas. We'll pick on the garden, I suppose. You've got the program reviews here if you wanted to go through that, but there's more information about each of those areas here. One of the things that comes up, we have the base funding cycle, which that's the quadrennial budget where all budgets are set for the next 4 years. The areas come in to request their funds. And outside of that, you know, we can't really tell the future. And so there are opportunities for supplemental funding requests, which I think everybody here is familiar to some degree with that. Typically, any supplemental funding is a reimbursement request. So should an area need funding for something that they had not anticipated, then you all would vote on that. And then my part and role in that would be to sort of gather the expenses and reimburse that department out of the reserves of the fee revenue. When we're talking about priorities, I think that this is an important thing to note, is that the first priority for supplemental funding is going to go to the current base funding programs. And that is currently we're only really accepting supplemental funding requests from base funded units. But I kept this in here because should that change and we have a whole bunch of new students start, then this is still sort of the priority that, and even within the base funded units, the first priority, of course, is to fund those. The next one would be to add programs and trying to not include non-student payroll. So that would mean suggest like we want to be able to expand programs to give students opportunities. It's not the intent, or the priority wouldn't be to bring on additional full-time staff. And then third priority would be those programs or requests that would involve additional full-time staff. I have a link over here as well that pops us into the guidelines. These are all on the website, of course. It talks about the policy, the CWU policy, information about spending your fee and sort of what's allowed. The Killian outline is really a document that guides all S&A committees regarding application of the guidelines, and then the applicable RCW. So this is a really, if you haven't been out to this website, this is a great spot to kind of get some resources and information that governs and dictates how that money is going to be used. So we talk in accounting a lot about fund balance and fund balance, and that's not what it is, but it is a amount that is in the reserves, sort of. It's what the as this says, this represents the amount of cash that the fund started with at the beginning of the fiscal year. The S&A supplemental, that is the fee revenue that we bring in whenever someone swipes, you know, they don't probably really swipe their card, but pays their tuition. And this is what was in the fund at the beginning of FY 23 or 24. So at the end of FY 23, beginning balance. This is essentially what we have in the fund. This 192,000 is what is sitting in department funds. Some of that is most of the S&A unspent allocation was swept back. Some of these areas is a little bit more confusing on how to, or I should say complicated on the sweep, because they have multiple funding areas. They, like, most of this is actually the rec center. They get the rec fee and the S&A fee, and it's sort of like which, you know, trying to just figure out which one gets swept. So that's kind of sitting there. Last meeting, Joey asked me a question that I did not have the answer to, but I do this time, because we're kind of talking about rolling back. Last year we did roll back $1.7 million of unspent S&A allocation. And that is included in this 5.7 million. So we were able to, you know, we would have been down to about 4 million in our reserves. Just sort of contrasting that, what we actually allocated was 7.3 million out. So the sort of the big picture is that we are, at least at that point, we haven't got all the fee revenue with the increased fee, but we are allocating out more than what we are bringing in from fee revenue. And so this equation was, you know, this was part of the equation that resulted in increasing the fee, because we still, even with the rollback of the fund balances and the 10% reduction, we were still dipping into reserves, which is not sustainable, of course. This is another sort of graph. In addition to the S&A allocation, we also are required to reserve a $500,000 for the bond payment. And so while on this page it shows the 5.7, actually 500,000 of that is required to be kept to the side. So what we have in our reserves is almost $3 million. So as far as the financial overview of the S&A funds go, just kind of go through these. Of course, all of the fees and the revenue generated by the programs is managed in accordance with applicable laws, policies, and procedures. We follow GAAP typically, and we are subject in this office to annual state audit, which is coming right up. And those results are public information if anybody ever is interested or wants to sit in on an audit, which is kind of interesting. We really watch fund transfers, so it's very common in different areas of the university to be able to move money from one spot to another. S&A money is not like that. If there's a department that pays for, I mean, I can't really think of a great example off the top of my head, but we could move expenses out of an S&A fund and have that expense move, but we do not move any actual fund out of any actual money out of the S&A fund. That money is there for a specific purpose. Any excess fee revenues that have not been previously allocated are subject to the S&A guidelines. Right now, we obviously don't have a lot of excess fee revenue, but that is really kind of speaking to different situations in the environment where if there was additional money, that money would need to be reallocated by this committee. That's just really the way that all of that S&A money gets spent is through you all. The over expenditures, that's really if you overspend your allocation, that deficit gets to come with you into the new year, and then you have to sort of go without that amount. In addition, any under expenditures are, as of last year anyway, they were all swept back to be reallocated possibly for future requests or to help maintain our reserves. I think that that's a conversation if we're going to be continuing that. My understanding is that we are, but I believe that's really up to you all. We can probably talk about later. Any unexpended salary funds. So this is another thing that came up, I believe last year was when this started, and Joey, please correct me if I'm wrong. Typically unspent salary funds would be able to be reused within that same area. And I believe that as of last year, we were rolling those back after 2 months. Is that what you understood, Joey?
Yeah, slightly. I think we moved it to after 1 month of a vacant position, then we rolled it back. But in our guidelines, it really says if there's a vacant position, they could utilize that funds within whatever was allowed, right? They still couldn't use it for something other than what it was allocated. But if the position was vacant for 6 months, then the salary savings roll back. And so kind of giving them that buffer to fill the position or do other pieces.
So I suppose that this one is wrong then. But really sort of is that then the 6 months is what for this year?
At the moment, since last year we made the motion to revert back after 1 month through the remainder of the year, it's something that in one of our first business meetings coming up, we will be discussing and deciding on them.
Okay.
But so yeah, for this moment, it should be after 6 months.
Well, let's just, okay. And I believe that's probably the same with the under expenditures. like I said, that is how we did it last year. And I would assume, and again, Joey, correct me if I'm wrong, that this would be another business item that we would talk about with sweeping back the fund balances at the end.
Yep, that's on the docket.
Okay. Maybe we'll. Annual reports are reports that all of the base funded units will submit, and those are due by December 1st of each year and go through sort of what they did with the money that they were allocated, and any challenges that they had. You all will be able to review those and consider how that funding is being spent. As far as the S&A committee review, I'll just go ahead and read this. The responsibility for recommending program priorities and S&A funding levels for that portion of program budgets shall reside with the S&A fee committee. So it is really for you all to determine those things. The committee reserves the right for good cause shown to review and recommend changes at any time to any S&A base funding allocation. So should the need arise for you to review a program that you have funded, that is in your to your discretion. And information pertaining to S&A fee budget shall be made to interested parties pursuant to the Public Records Act. Of course, we're a state agency, and everything we do is subject to the Public Records Act, pretty much, I believe. And additional resource for the use of funds is the Killian outline, which I showed you. There's another link to it, and that is a really great resource. I am sure that you have already been told that you should probably read that. I would recommend it. Base funding adjustments. This is sort of what we had discussed earlier with rolling back some of those unspent funds. These are up to you all to evaluate the impact. It could be due to, in our case, we're still suffering from low enrollment due to the pandemic. And those are, that was really has been a driving factor in if we're still able to provide the quadrennial funding that we thought we would back then. So these are things that will be coming up at the next meeting, I believe. We talked a little bit about the $500,000 that was reserved for the bond payment for the building. This is talking about in 2004 was when I believe that was when the construction was finished, because you wouldn't probably pay the bond payment until you were done. But so 2034 is going to be the last payment. As far as the bond covenants, that's the document that you receive when you get the bond that kind of tells all the rules. It's very specific that the first priority is to pay the bond payment. Now, of course, the bond payment isn't due till the end of the year, and we start collecting money. But this is the main priority for the S&A fee, is to get that bond paid. The fee is tied to this per RCWs. Then the second priority is to ensure that all the operating revenue and expenses equal at least a 1.0 or higher ratio. So the debt service coverage ratio is what this is referring to, and it specifically states that this is the minimum that we can have, and that really represents that our to ensure that our revenue is greater than our expenses. I mean, that's what we all hope for. And then this little blurb here is talking about the bond covenant, comes right out of the document. The interesting kind of difference with these bonds is there are revenue bonds, and so it's very important to note that you can't really make your debt payment out of reserves. It should be paid with the revenue that the building is generating. Okay. So the debt service coverage ratio, how it's calculated, we take our net revenues, which is the operating revenues minus operating expenses. And the operating expenses, as noted here, is all of the capitalized expenses. So that would include, I think this year the CERC needs a new roof, we just put a boiler in. So those expenses as well. And then the debt service ratio is your net revenue divided by your maximum bond payment, which is the highest bond payment year. So this year, I have included all the distribution of the S&A fee. We distributed out 7.4 million, and this is how that was distributed to the areas. Essentially, we front load the allocation and then bring in the fee revenue as each quarter as tuition is paid. And that's it. There's a link here to the S&A website. If you want to hopefully go out there and take a look and maybe read the Killian outline. And I think that that's it. So I'm going to stop sharing. And does anybody have any questions? If you do come up with any questions or you want to bounce anything off of me, please. I think I'm in CERC 263. I think we used to be in 250, and so I sometimes get it wrong. But I'm happy to chat with any of you about any of these things at almost any time.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Erin.
You're very
Awesome
welcome.
job. I'm going to see if my camera, if I can turn it on without you all freezing. Because I feel weird talking and just there's the blank void. And I know the video shows it too. So if you all freeze or I get booted out again, I apologize and I won't try this experiment. Yeah, thanks, Mia. Just pretend to freeze on me. So yeah, with that, I mean, if you all do have any questions and things, definitely let Erin know. As was kind of alluded to, is some sneak peeks coming up in what we have on the agenda for the rest of fall quarter. We'll see. If we get supplemental requests, they'll come to you. Otherwise, it is going to be looking over kind of the current status of the S&A fee for this year, coming with some recommendations from Erin about how we proceed for this year. We do have on there the 10% proposed reduction that was set 2 years ago and for us to look at. So that'll be on there. And in that same discussion will be conversations that we had last fall as well about, do we feel the need about the rollback of unspent salary and unspent funds at the end of the year? And so those are our big items that will be coming up. And so we'll be delving more specifically into that. So please ask questions as that comes up. So cool. Otherwise, with that, I'm going to move us into our old business. We have 2 items on here. One, and I'll give a little refresher on it, is just the election of the chair, vice chair, and parliamentarian positions. Especially since all of you are here. That is super helpful, but I'll go over the overview of those positions, and then after that, we'll just do a brief, just to make sure we're in consensus on the frequency and timing and stuff of our meetings for the rest of the year, so we can have them out there. So with that though, as a refresher, we have 3 positions, and these are student positions on here. They're 1 year for appointments, but 3 officer positions. Those are the chair of the S&A committee, the vice chair of the S&A committee, and the parliamentarian. And we're going to go in that order of when we go through them, but I'll explain what each role is. The chair, as a reminder, is the one who actually runs and proceeds us through the meeting, as I've been doing with our training meetings. And so they'll call the meeting to order. They'll move us through the items. Their role is really to help guide us through this and serve as kind of the spokesperson for the committee. Typically when we're having voting though, they do not vote unless there is a tie. And so they do serve as the tiebreaker. And so have to try and for the most part, maintain some neutral ground on the committee. But they do represent us on other aspects such as the CERT governance board and a couple of other things for it. But a lot of their job is going through the agenda and working with Aaron, me, and I on setting those things and responding out. If there's a request for formal communication, we work with them on that. We're going to do that one first, and then we'll move into the vice chair is really the backup to the chair. And so in the event the chair is not present or able to be there, the vice chair will step in either to represent on a committee or will step in to run the meeting and move us through the proceedings as the chair would typically do. The vice chair is also often the one, if you all make the decision that, hey, we want to pull together a subcommittee to look at whatever you all decide we want to look at and use that as outside time. Typically, the vice chair is the one who will coordinate and chair those subcommittees and report back to the main group. And then the parliamentarian is the next in order. So if both the chair and vice chair are absent, and sometimes this happens, as some of you who are on the committee last year know, then the parliamentarian steps in and they will be the one kind of running the meeting and kind of proceeding us through it and representing it. Otherwise, their regular position and job is to help the chair to make sure we're following appropriate parliamentary procedure and helping provide either corrections or answering questions that may come up within that. So to really help keep us on track on that side. So before I open it up to nominations or anything, does anyone have questions about what any of those positions are or what that might entail or just in general questions?
Nope. I'm good.
Thanks, Jared. Cool.
So, sorry, I do actually have a question.
Yeah, go ahead, Xander.
So to be clear, the chair and the vice chair, or no, just the chair. The chair cannot vote or should not be voting.
Yeah. Yep.
Okay.
Yep. The chair would typically be the one who, for example, will come in and will say, if there's a motion to approve a funding request, they don't make the motion. They can't second the motion. As you'll see, that's like I'll entertain a motion. Someone else makes it, someone seconds it. And when it goes to the voting, they'll call for the vote, but they do not provide a vote for or against unless there's a tie. And so in the example that in right now, right, we have enough that if the chair was one of you and the rest were here, we had an odd number. But if for some reason we had 2 for, 2 against, and 1 abstain, that would require the chair then to vote for or against it, and that would be the deciding vote at that point. But otherwise, no, they do not vote on other pieces. Yeah, great question. Okay, so with that, I'm going to go ahead and open it up, and you can nominate yourself. You can nominate someone else. If you nominate someone else, that person does have to accept the nomination. Can't push it through. But I'll go ahead and leave it open for a minute here. Any nominations or interest in serving as the chair for this year? Jared, go ahead.
I was actually going to go for vice.
Oh, well, you're okay. It's supposed to be delayed response. You got in there ahead of time. We're going for chair.
Yeah.
We're going for... Alice, go ahead.
I would like to nominate Jared Osborne to be our chair.
Jared.
But chair is 1 word and vice chair is 2 words.
And Jared Osborne is 2 words.
No.
Nominated
Crap.
one. Where's the tiebreaker?
Uh-oh.
That's you.
We
Are
need a
are
chair to
you
break the tie.
agreeing to this nomination, Jared? You can decline it.
I will agree.
Okay.
This feels
Any
like
other
coercion.
nomination? Yeah, right.
Well, that's politics for you, though.
Any other nomination? I guess I should have said this because we'll get all the nominations when there are multiple candidates. We will do a vote. Otherwise, we still have to vote to approve. But any other nominations for the chair position? Okay. Seeing none, we'll go ahead. I guess, Jared, you have a brief 30 seconds if you want to share anything, and then we're going to go into a vote. All those in favor or against or abstaining. But do you want to give a brief 30 seconds on why you were willing to accept the nomination or might be interested in the position?
Because it's a job that has to be done, even though I'm a graduate student and my bathtub is not big enough for all of my tiers with the work I'll have to do.
Thank you, Jared. Okay, with that, we'll go ahead and move to voting. All those in favor of electing Jared Osborne as the S&A Committee Chair, please raise your hand. 5 in favor. All those opposed? And any abstaining? That's where you raise your hand, Jared. You haven't
Yeah,
voted.
but I think I'll abstain. But I just want to comment et tu, Brute.
1 abstaining. So congratulations, Jared. You are the S&A Committee Chair for the year. So when we jump into our next meeting, you get a takeover. It also means you will get copied on my weekly email that I send to Mia and Aaron on here's the agenda items. So be prepared for that. Okay, we'll go ahead and open it up to nominations for the vice chair position.
I want to nominate myself.
Sander, awesome. I'm assuming you accept your own nomination. Very cool. Alice, I saw you put your hand up.
I was gonna make a nomination, but we're good. Thank you.
Okay. Any other nominations?
Sorry if I stepped on your toes, Alice.
No. Nope. You're great.
Cool. Seeing no other, Xander, do you want to give a brief? You have 30 seconds if you want to share anything before they vote on why you're interested. Oh, you just muted yourself.
That's awkward. The vice chair can still vote, and I like voting.
That is a fair. Unless you have to serve as the chair. But, cool. All right, so we'll go ahead and move on. All those in favor of Xander Johnson as the vice chair of the S&A Committee this year, please raise your hand. 1, 2, 3, 4. Perfect. Any opposed? Any abstaining? Okay. 5 to 1 abstention. Congratulations, Sander. You are the vice chair for the committee. Thank you. And now finally, last one, open the floor for nominations for parliamentarian. Alice.
I'd like to nominate myself for parliamentarian.
Perfect. Any other nominations?
I'd like to parliamentarian Alice. Oh wait, that's the same nomination.
Seeing no other nominations besides Alice, do you want to give a brief 30-second spiel before we vote?
Yeah, I've been involved in political service for at least 10 years now. So I very much enjoy seeing these. These are opportunities for a lot of voices to come together, and that requires a parliamentarian voice. And so that's why I would like to step up and try to take this on. Thank you.
Thank you, Alice. Okay, with that, we'll go ahead and move to voting. All those in favor of Alice Williams as S&A parliamentarian this year, raise your hand. 3, 4. Slowly waiting. 5. Thanks, Jake. All those opposed?
Oh, wait, I'm abstaining.
You can oppose your own. I mean, if you want, Alice. I'll count that as a mistake. All those abstaining. 1 abstention. The vote passes. Congratulations, Alice, on being the parliamentarian. Perfect. Thank you. Now, the last item of business is really just to touch base with you all. And we discussed this for those who were on the committee last year. I'll give a brief kind of what we did last year. But the regular part of our meetings and kind of see where it is. Knowing we don't necessarily have a lot of supplemental requests, at least at this point, there may be others that come up. The committee was kind of discussing last year the frequency of either meeting every other week. And again, these meetings were before scheduled for 2.5 to 3 hours if needed. Or meeting weekly, but trying to keep it to a shorter meeting time period of about an hour within that. And so this is your all's committee. This is your all's decision within it. Obviously, if we end up having more things to discuss or go over than we have time, we got to adjust with that. But I just want to open the floor for discussion for you all on what you all would like to do. And then we will want to make sure we motion and approve whatever we decide. But thoughts, feedback on frequency of meeting.
So I just wanted to apologize for being out for those votes. I got an important call and I couldn't really hear too well with both coming through both ears.
You were totally good, Jake. I appreciate you trying to make it in there.
I know last quarter we'd gone to the phrase nobody's probably going to agree on bi-weekly meetings, by which I mean every other week. But more than an hour to an hour and a half in a meeting does get tough. So I think if we have enough pertinent business, maybe more frequent would be worthwhile.
This is my first year on the committee, so correct me if I'm wrong. But I'd imagine we would get enough business for a weekly 45 to 1 hour meeting to be sufficient, as opposed to maybe having to do a bi-weekly hour-and-a-half meeting. And that also would allow for funding requests to get pushed through faster, particularly if they have time constraints.
I think that as long as everybody can make the weekly meetings a little bit easier, because I mean, nobody has to specify the time. Like if we don't have enough things to do during our agenda, we can always end it. It'd probably end within 30 to 45 minutes. So I think that's a little bit easier than bi-weekly hour and a half.
Any other thoughts, feedback? Jared?
I'm totally fine with every week, but I have a commitment every other Thursday. That means that I have to leave at 6. So as long as we're under an hour or around an hour on those times, then we're fine. But if we think we're going to be going over, every other week would probably work better.
I think I would agree with weekly meetings. As an hour would probably be easier than a 2 hour bi-weekly meeting.
Yeah, and an hour was fine last year. It's just, if we're getting more busy this year, which of course is really hard to estimate.
Yeah.
I assume that we could potentially switch it mid-quarter if it becomes a problem.
Yeah. You always all have the ability to adjust as needed. So I mean, I think that's the key part. If we put in place whatever you all agree on, and then we get to a spot where you all either need to meet more frequently or need to meet for longer. I mean, we have the ability, as long as we provide that advance notice with the public meeting part of it, we're totally good. So it
Yeah.
sounds like most are in agreement.
I do remember, Joey, when I first joined the committee, we had a few meetings there that were probably 15, 20 minutes.
Yeah. We did well, and I guess I give you all a sneak peek of what we have for the year. So for fall quarter, we do have the pieces I mentioned earlier, looking at the budget, making some kind of decisions for the allocations this year and what we do. We also will be bringing to you all here pretty quickly at one of the first meetings, just to quickly look over the program review questions to see if there's any edits or tweaks, because we're going to send those out to all the units. And so for fall quarter, that's kind of what we have on the docket. There's not a lot more that may be on there now. That's only until the end of November or the very first week in December, as I'm saying. But starting winter quarter, that's when we'll be looking at annual financial reports and program reviews at our meetings. And so fall quarter might be a little bit lighter than the others, but as we go into it and spread them out within it, I mean, we have enough throughout these. I think the only part we don't know is if we're going to get inundated with supplemental requests at some point. That obviously throws off the planning and we can't guess. But, Alice, you're absolutely right. We would have meetings where we would pop in and we give a brief update and we'd see if there's any public comment and give a quick report, and then we were done because we didn't have any other business. So
if we set this time presently, is there not an opportunity to potentially change it midway through winter quarter? Say we have too many things we need to do or the meetings are too busy. We extend them or whatever.
Yeah. No, you all absolutely could. I mean, you get to a point, and so it sounds like, and I'll let you all kind of make a motion on this, but it sounds like potentially keeping it weekly with the intent that these will be hour-long meetings. But if we get to the point winter quarter where you all are realizing, no, we just have way too much to do in an hour, we can look at adjusting it. And maybe that is looking and being like, what is the every other week that wouldn't impact our chair? And maybe one week it's an hour and the next week it's a 2-hour meeting if needed type scenario. But we can absolutely adjust it as we go as needed.
Then,
I think if we're being intentional, though, we can make good use of the time and be efficient.
Then I'd like to make a motion to set our meetings at 1 hour weekly with the opportunity to adjust that time if necessary.
Great. Motion from Xander. Is there a second?
Yeah, I'd like to second.
Second from Alice. Any discussion?
Are we thinking of starting this at the same time as today's? Xander, do you have input on this?
For me at least 5 to 6 works. If it doesn't work for anyone else, I'd love to hear it so that we can adjust.
It seems like, and at least just, Alice, so far at this point, the time period has seemed to work for everyone, as long as, again, as Jared had shared, that every other week, that 6 o'clock kind of cap does jump in. So seems like this is a good time.
We can also table things and move them to the next session. It doesn't have to necessarily require a change in our schedule if we go over one time.
Yeah. No, and ours would be we'd schedule it for 1 hour, as we all know, because we're technically at 1 hour and 1 minute right now. We don't end the meeting immediately. So any other discussion on the motion? Cool. Seeing none, all those in favor of the motion to set our meetings at weekly for planned 1 hour? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 in favor. Any opposed?
Oh, sorry, I'm in favor.
Thank you, Jared. 6 in favor. So everyone's in favor. So we don't need to keep going through. Motion passes. So we'll go ahead and stick with that. Again, as things come up, we can revisit. So please, if any of you are noticing, obviously, as advisors, Aaron or I will let you all know and bring it up. But otherwise, feel free to bring it up as a point of discussion if any of you are noticing a challenge or issues with it. So Otherwise, we'll go ahead and move on to public comment second call. Is there any public comment?
Sorry,
Yeah, Mia.
I meant to add this earlier, but the S&A meeting times have been uploaded on what is it, Central Events. So it's on the website for events. If you wanted to refer people to that, that might be interested. The Zoom link is there. Their information's there. It's going to say the same thing every meeting, but if you want to refer people to S&A meetings and you don't want to forward emails or send links, you could, or send like the Zoom links because that could be tedious, you can always refer them to Central Events. We are now on Central Events. Woo.
Thank you, Mia, for getting that all set up too. Any other public comment? My dog is giving public comment outside the window that I'm sitting by, which I don't know if you all can hear it, but it's very loud on my end, so I apologize. I think the only part I just reiterate again is, as I know we're closing out of here, just kind of a re-sharing some of the events and stuff we have coming up that Nick shared. We have Wellington's Wildfire tomorrow. Tomorrow is also the Nicholson Pavilion ribbon cutting, so the opening of the new athletic facility up there at 4 o'clock. So that'll be happening, and then you can hang out and help set up if you want, or you can go do things and then come back, because that's where the wildfire is also going to be located, is right up there afterwards. And then the comedian is at 9 o'clock because it is homecoming and family weekend, so we got a lot of events. Yes, Alice.
Joey, do you know if that means that the Nicholson Pavilion will be holding classes in the future quarters? I miss my karate classes and yoga classes.
That is a great question. Also, I believe that is the intent and plan, is that for winter quarter they'll be scheduled in there, but I don't know if they've set the academic schedule with the locations yet for winter quarter. I know that's the plan. Any other public comment? Oh, we got a chat comment from Lola. Oh yeah, Fall Abundance Festival. Thank you. Fall Abundance Festival, 5 to 6:30 at the Northside Commons. There's food, resources, a lot of great stuff up there. So again, a lot of stuff going on this weekend. So definitely check it out. Spread the word as well to others. I know it's part of our piece, as we're here to help represent and bring information back. So definitely pass those along. Thank you, Lola. Well, if there's not any other public comment, I will go ahead and entertain a motion to adjourn the meeting. Is there a motion?
Yeah, I'll make a motion to adjourn our meeting.
I will second.
Thanks, Alice. Motion from Alice, second from Jared. Any discussion?
It's
Any
6:05.
disagreement? Oh, go ahead, Alice. Sorry.
6:05. Sounds like a great time to adjourn.
Perfect. Seeing no disagreement, motion passes, and we are adjourned at 6:05 p.m. Thank you all. We will see you all next Thursday. Have a great weekend.
Bye.
Great rest of your week.
Bye all.